Hello, everyone, and welcome to the day two of our Leading Digital Transformation program. Today, we are focusing on the future of work, future of leadership in that work, and our first speaker is Radina Nedyalkova, who is psychologist and HR professional, certified career consultant, and virtual lecturer with 11 years of international HR and recruitment experience working in global companies such as LinkedIn and Airbnb. She has lived and worked in Bulgaria, USA, Singapore, and Ireland, where she has her own remote talent practice agency called Vox Advisory. She combines her vast experience working with global startups and global tech organizations of making sense of changes that are happening in the world of workforce, leadership, and scaling with impact. So without further ado, Erdina, off to you.
Thank you, Blas, so much for the nice introduction. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. First and foremost, really thank you for your time and for your attention. I hope this is worth your while. I am a big fan of being very open and honest, very transparent, and also collaborative. So I hope the next 60 minutes are a good knowledge exchange for everyone. I do have a couple of activities, and the whole idea is for us to just see what is the reality on your side. You're all coming from very different types of organizations, so I want to make sure that I'm not giving only examples about the tech industry or about any other specific industry. So I hope that everyone can hear me, can see my screen. Feel free to use the chat option. I actually sent a little link. Don't open it just yet. But today my session is going to be around three things. And I'm sure that at this stage, future of work is already a buzzword for you. Those of you coming from HR, I'm sure this is a topic that is on and on every single day. But I firmly believe that we need to look first at the macro level. So what is happening globally? So these are the trends. I'm going to show you some interesting stats. And then also talk about what is already happening. So what are the good practices, the interesting tools that are already available so that we enter the future of work fully equipped with the right skill set, with the right know-how, okay? So basically, these are the three things that I'm going to try to touch on. There's so many different opinions on this matter. I'm not saying I'm the only expert, but in the end of this session, I'll share with you some resources that I think would be further helpful for you if you want to investigate the topic. So if you are ready, I'm ready to jump in as well. First things first. For those of you who have your mobile phones around you, you can open the camera and screen this QR code. It will bring you to a website. I don't know if you have used Mentimeter as a tool before. This is a great application that tracks live opinions or answers to different questions. So I would like you all to open this QR code, or if you can't open it with your mobile phone, just to open the link that I've sent in the chat. It's www.menti.com, and then there is an extension. So please, everyone, open it. The whole idea is to do a little bit of a self-evaluation. You will see here, basically, 8 different skills. So these are a combination of soft and hard skills. I will obviously talk a bit more about them later, but I would like all of you to self-evaluate from being low on a specific capability or skill to being very high, so that you possess this skill to a very developed extent. I see already some people starting to vote, so it's completely anonymous, so don't worry, I don't see any names. So the whole idea is for us to be very, very, very open and honest about, are we really good at all of these skill sets, or maybe there is a room for improvement? So I'll leave you a couple of minutes just to go through that, and then we'll go back to it later on. So I would really appreciate if most of you, or whoever is on your computer or phone, can vote on this activity. So we're starting to see, as you can see on the screen, immediately there are changes. The minute someone votes, there are changes in the overall result. So it doesn't show me how every one of you has voted. It just shows the trend in terms of tendency. So it's very, very interesting too. It's completely free. So for those of you who haven't used it, I will just put Mentimeter in the chat. It's really, really useful if you're doing some activities together with your remote, hybrid, or even on-site teams. Okay, I see 6 people that have voted already. 7, nice, interesting. I'm curious, does everyone know what EQ is?
Equity?
Close, Hannah, close.
So it's the emotional quotient.
Ah, Kamal, excellent. This is emotional intelligence or emotional coefficient. So it's like IQ, which is related to the intelligence, but this one is related to your overall emotions. So under emotional intelligence, we have a number of skills. So this is basically like leadership. Leadership on its own has a lot of other different skills, such as executive presence, charisma, communication, etc. In emotional intelligence, you have a number of skills as well, such as active listening, such as self-awareness, self-regulation, understanding other people's emotions, which is also empathy. So this is a very common mistake when people see EQ. They probably think of other terms like Hannah mentioned, but it does stand for emotional intelligence, as Kamal mentioned. So it's normal that it's a bit lower if people don't know what it is. I see adaptability and change management are the 2 that are leading, followed by collaboration, innovation, and creativity, digital literacy, and again, we're going to discover what exactly that means, data analytics, and then EQ and authenticity and vulnerability are the lowest. Funny enough, 2020 and this year, 2021, really put a strong focus on these 2. Why? Because we're all suffering the consequences of COVID, of staying home, of not having certainty, of not having this psychological safety at work. We don't know what's happening. Some of you might be already on a hybrid schedule, 2 days at work, and the rest 3 days you're working from home. So this is very interesting as a tendency. It's actually, I've done this a few times already, and to be honest with you, these are always the lowest. So we're going to go back to that a bit later. Nice, great exercise. Oh, someone was able to even write on the screen. Well done, well done. Now, unfortunately, it's inevitable that we speak about the COVID situation and how it impacted our world, but some of these tendencies that I'm going to share here have been happening for a while. I'm going to start and I'm going to ask you as well, what are some of the big things that are happening in your world, whether it's people related, whether it's technology, things that you are observing that are impacting your work? Any other global tendencies? What have you suffered or what have you seen? Does that ring a bell? The Great Resignation.
Absolutely. At the time of COVID, everybody was rushed into learning all the digital skills, making sure that they need to catch up with the rest of the world. And there are some tips and tricks which they did not know about, and they think they are capable of handling computer, which is not the case.
Absolutely, Hannah. And this is interesting that you're mentioning, because the digital literacy is exactly that, understanding how to use different tools, even how to operate with Zoom. It's strange that even now, in the end of this year, people still don't have a clue exactly how to optimize their presence on Zoom, how to put their camera properly, lighting and background and everything. So you're absolutely right, Hannah. And I think this is actually one of the main things that are impacting our world. The fact that all of us need to do a bit of upskilling or reskilling. Ingi, I see that you have unmuted yourself. Do you want to share something?
Yes, I just wanted to add one thing to the comments, is that post-COVID, we were all like enforced to use all the digital tools to ensure that our productivity and business plans are just going and nothing's going to interrupt it. Especially that in some countries, not all, however, we had a certain period of time where we had to work from home. One drawback I would just hammer on just before we step into the work-life integration, maybe one of the drawbacks is that since you're at home and you're working and you're connected, so you tend to like work most of the time, and it's not really limited to a certain number of hours, or at least this is how I've experienced it with my team. Maybe because we are working on the digital part, or the digital banking and the innovation part. Yet maybe one of the drawbacks of this is that we're working too much at home.
Yes, and that's the thing. We actually overwork, and this is one of the next slides. Ingi, thank you for sharing that, because we forgot that the working hours should be around 8, 7 to 9 is the standard. We actually work a lot more when we're at home. We get carried away in admin as well. So we tend to work much more when we are at home. So this really feeds Ingi into the work-life integration. Absolutely. A lot of organizations have figured out, first of all, burnout levels are through the roof. It's insane how many people are taking stress leave, not sick leave, but stress leave. And unfortunately, there isn't a proper way to reinstall these people back to work because we're still working remotely. So the environment hasn't changed. The person or the people or the teams have suffered from the consequences, and unfortunately, not much has been done. Work-life balance, yeah, this is not something that we can afford anymore. Work-life integration, though, is a way to figure out how we can both survive doing our personal life and ensuring that we're still productive without overworking ourselves. Absolutely. The Great Resignation is something that this year, basically this term became popular this year because a lot of people are changing jobs. Why they're changing? Because they figured out, oh, well, this company doesn't embrace my values, my value system. I will switch, I'll change. So many companies are remote already. So those organizations that have already established policies and practices that are more flexible, more adjustable according to the individual and to the teams. So let's say those that are working in sales and in marketing, they really don't need to be in the office. They need to be on the phone, or they need to be on their computer. Same with engineering. However, certain roles, and I'm sure that those of you who are in a bit more traditional setup, let's say banking, you still have a lot of the support functions or a lot of the hardware technological teams that have to be on site. So there is no such thing for them as fully remote. Employee engagement, exactly, as we were talking about, and with Ingi's situation, when you work hard, you have to play hard, usually. But unfortunately, the fact that people have this kind of distant relationship now is truly impacting how engaged they are with the brand, which lead to much more resignations and much more lack of motivation and lack of real desire to continue in a career path with this company. Another trend, diversity, equity, and inclusion, or also known as diversity, inclusion, and belonging, a big piece. And it's a narrative not only to talk about ratio, male versus female. We're talking about diversity of thought. We're talking about diversity of the profiles that we're hiring for as well. Can we find those right people who are more junior, but we can train so that they become the people that we know we want and we need in the organization? So diversity and equity are conversations that are not going to stop within the next 5 to 10 years. As long as you have established policies and practices that are very transparent and very visible, whether it's for your candidates, whether it's for your teams, whether it's for developing individual career paths. A lot of the times organizations have quotas for DEI. However, it's going to go a level further when it comes to measuring the data, measuring the impact, why people leave. Is there anything that can be done better, particularly in certain organizations that are, again, a bit more traditional, not the high tech that is moving with 150 miles per hour? Hybrid versus remote versus office. Again, can we establish policies that are equally valid for those of us who can work remotely from home and those that actually have to go to work. What is the difference? There is huge lack of satisfaction, particularly when it comes to those jobs that are deskless, meaning the blue collar jobs. So a lot of the times we need to create completely different practices that will cater to the needs of those who don't have the same job responsibilities in comparison to the white collar. Ethical AI. I'm sure that already you're using a number of tools that are facilitating how you work together. Collaborative tools, project management tools, HR operations, analytical tools to measure data. Unfortunately, a lot of the new startups and companies that are working with AI and machine learning are talking about resolving biases, providing you with tools that will be one solution for everything. Honestly, as a psychologist, as someone who is truly invested in the human resources field and understanding talent, there is no such thing as completely unbiased tool. If we rely only on technology, things are not going to progress in a positive way. We need to establish the human element. And particularly when it comes to ethical AI, one of the topics that is within this segment is how we can ensure that we don't go away from the human interaction. It can be boosted by an AI tool to support you from an efficiency perspective, but there should be still human or people involved so that we can provide human and more holistic oriented approach, regardless of whether we're talking about management, development of people, hiring people, and even firing people. I'm wondering if anyone knows what DAO stands for. Has anyone heard of this term before? No? No, these are,
I haven't.
It's actually a very interesting, relatively new term, which talks about autonomous organizations, and particularly individuals that are self-organized. So we previously talked about the gig economy, right? So 2012, 2013, 14, we started talking about the gig economy, which means that a lot of people are becoming freelancers because they can work on multiple different projects with multiple clients, and this is exciting. One thing that I've noticed, particularly when it comes to hiring engineers, why is it challenging? Because they do want to work on something that makes a difference. They want to be constantly challenged by the new stack, by the new technologies that are out there. And if you put them in one box and they have to work only for your organization on a very specific project or very specific activities, they either tend to get bored or they're not fully engaged at certain point and they leave. So particularly when it comes to the autonomous organizations, yeah, Aisha, yeah, very, very interesting point. Same to healthcare. In general, what that means is that you will start seeing more and more people who either have their own business, they want to do freelancing, or they want part-time jobs so that they can do other activities as well. The future of work is incredibly decentralized. And if let's say 5 years ago, we would perceive these people as job hoppers because they constantly change, they change every year, or they want to be challenged regularly. Now, this is becoming the norm. So how can we adjust to professionals that are incredibly wanted? Obviously, there is competition for them. What can we do in order to attract them, first and foremost, to attract them, hire them, so successfully onboard them, and then retain them? So these are three very challenging activities at the moment: attract, manage to hire, so without being ghosted, and then being able to retain them. Ensuring that there is it's beyond flexibility even, ensuring that they have the time, they have the opportunity to invest in something else. It might not be for financial gain, it might be for volunteering. To give you a real example, I used to work at Airbnb. We all know, obviously, Airbnb, so there is no need for introduction. They actually have rewarded volunteering. So it was mandatory for people to choose something that they're passionate about. And they were given 8 hours every quarter to work on something that is entirely in their heart. Google have done that for ages, but we'll start to see more and more this being integrated in the policies and the practices that we have in regards to the workforce. Is there anything that I'm missing? I'm super curious. Aisha is obviously sharing that this is a trend in the healthcare, and yeah, I've seen that as well. Not only in healthcare, in telecommunications as well. I've seen it even in engineering, construction and engineering, which is quite interesting. Is there anything else that you feel is impacting on a macro level how we work now? Anything that I've missed, perhaps?
I would probably say that the one with things that I see is that how global the workforce becomes, right? It becomes effectively there are effectively no limits right now. People can work anywhere, and therefore it doesn't matter if you're in Silicon Valley, if you're in Dublin, if you're in Cairo, if you're in anywhere else, right? You can still be paid Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
The wages, and that affects just the overall worldwide. It affects the worldwide salaries, the availability of engineers and stuff like that.
Exactly, Vlas. And this is an excellent point. Availability, capacity. We used to say, and we, meaning HR professionals, we used to say there is no talent. There is a war for the talent. There is no such thing. The war for talent has been won by the candidates quite some time ago. And as Vlas mentioned, everything is now work from anywhere. I even put the term in the chat. These are the companies that will be able to attract the top-notch professionals and retain them, because this is what people want. Exactly. I want to be based in Bulgaria because my home is there, my parents are there, but then for 6 months of the year I want to be based in Canada. Why should that be a problem? Tax, legal, digitalization, as Aisha is mentioning as well, everything is online now. You can do so many things that we couldn't even think about 2 or 3 years ago. Absolutely. Cautious of time, so I'm moving on, and I wanted to show you again another stat. One of the top remote companies, I'm saying top because they're really ahead of the curve in terms of practices, in terms of solutions, in terms of how they have created their organization, their mission, their values and their culture as well. Buffer. So each year they do a massive research about the state of remote work. And as you can see here, the numbers are speaking for themselves. For this year, the biggest topic is around well-being, being able to switch off, understanding your limits, understanding how you can prevent burnout, looking after your mental health, looking after the mental health of your team as well, which is obviously it is pretty challenging piece. Look at the other elements. Collaboration and communication. These are some elements that are some skills that are still highly in demand. And a lot of the times people say, I'm a great communicator. What does that mean in a remote or in a hybrid setup? Are you able to use Slack properly? Are you able to engage or figure out the emotional state of the person only based on a chat? These are questions, these are valid questions that we should always ask ourselves when we're doing interviews, even when we're doing one-to-one, annual performance evaluations, appraisals, when we're doing team catch-ups and team meetings as well. Are we truly able to track and to understand whether people are collaborating effectively, whether they are communicating effectively? Seems like this is a big struggle because we don't have, again, this kind of physical interaction where I can feel your presence and we can have a cooler conversation next to the coffee machine or the tea machine, whatever. Other elements that we see here, distractions, staying motivated. So a recent research, again, have stated that the most challenged individuals are the new hires and parents at home. What do you think? Is there something else here missing, or do you agree with these statistics?
I want to play a little bit advocate diaboli, yeah. And
the devil's
I know
advocate, go, yeah.
hybrid working is a mega trend and has a lot of challenges. But I guess especially HR, and other departments are not really able to handle it, or even management. So what I hear very, very often, and what is a serious point, is that loyalty is decreasing and you cannot build up a culture. So if you are working in creative agencies or in different agencies where it's essential to have a culture in the office, yeah, this is completely erased if everybody is coming in, choose the next job, and it's not really possible to build up a good workforce. So if you are looking at the average standing period of younger people, they usually stay less than 2 years in a company. So if you have remote working, maybe they're going away each 6 months. Yeah. So if you are switching from one company to another company, you're not really able to build up skills and solve a problem or solve a challenge, yeah, because you are out of a project when it gets challenging. So, and nobody is talking about these issues, and I guess these are issues which should be addressed by HR, yeah. So you only talk about the opportunities to integrate people from different countries and cultures, yeah. So maybe it works in US, but if you are in Germany, yeah, 99% or 90% of the workforce is Germans, yeah. And if you integrate other cultures, it's always a difficult a problem. It's a good thing to do that, yeah. But it's easier if you met in person, and if it's completely online, yeah, it's only working in specific sectors like IT, like startups, but in a lot of traditional companies or mid-sized companies, it will not work. So
precisely.
Just hear your comments on that.
Absolutely, Dagobert, and I completely agree with you. And this is exactly what I was referring to in terms of the employee engagement, because it's not possible to create 100% the same culture if you're fully remote. I totally agree with you. And it's you mentioned the German culture. I believe that it's not only for Germans, or it's not only for the Nordic culture or the Eastern Europeans. I feel that on a human level, it is incredibly challenging, and that's why people believe that hybrid is the way to go. However, I don't feel that there is one solution that would say, okay, this is going to fix our problems, because even if we manage to completely eradicate COVID, fingers crossed that will happen soon, this is not going to solve the problems, because the Generation Z and the ones that are following after that, their attention span, the way they perceive work, everything is completely different to us, the millennials, to Generation X as well, to the baby boomers. With digitalization, as Aisha said, with the introduction of more and more technologies, this is impacting how people perceive culture. It's impacting how people perceive their relationship, and being in a different time zone even. So you have, even now we have a span from the West Coast of America to Western Europe to the East. So even that is challenging, because some of us are just waking up and are fresh, others are already very tired. So this impacts the way you perceive information. So I totally agree with you from that point of view, in regards to the fact that remote might not work for all organizations. And this is exactly what I wanted to share here when it comes to the statistics. We spoke about, Ahmed, of course.
Yeah, yes, I would like to share also one of
Great.
things we're struggling in working remotely from home. I think that working remotely is more vulnerable compared when we work from our own premises, because in our premises we can apply any security parameters, including availing privacy and confidentiality during working hours through our premises. But in working remotely, it's vulnerable compared that maybe I will be fully exposed to anything happening from outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Technological safety, so privacy, security, cyber security, they're not evolved yet. They're not evolved to a level where we can feel fully secure.
Yeah, exactly.
Precisely. And if you're traveling, let's say you need to have, well, VPN. Okay, we all have either devices or we have installed in our corporate computers, but is this enough? When it comes to understanding malware, understanding phishing, all of these bits and pieces, Hannah mentioned that earlier, we need to upskill every single person that is working either remotely or in a hybrid setup or from home, as Ahmed said. We don't have that yet.
Yeah.
Precisely. It's challenging also to figure out how to communicate all of these different new policies that we need to establish, investing in new technologies. Here, there is a statistic that people who work on site still, so all of these shops, the hospitality, the tourism industry as well, traditional engineering, production, factories, all of these people, they're not getting adequate communication in regards to, okay, what is the future going to bring? How can we avail of this new future of work? What can we do better? When it comes to personal growth as well, we need to think about how we upskill people. What are the right tools? What is the right software? Less than 1% of our time is actually dedicated to self-learning, to helping ourselves to be better. We don't have the time. As Ingi said, we're so overworked that we don't really figure out a way. We might sign up for webinars. How many of us are able to watch the recordings? Honestly, like I'm working parent. I can't watch the recordings, right?
Not all of them, yes. And I would say also, in reflection to that, we cannot have a fixed amount of technology, digital competency that is required under structures with a minimal part that can be offered to everyone level. We can say layperson would acquire, for example, the basic Teams management, the basic Zoom management skills that should be communicated to your team. And from there, you can ask and add more tools. And up to now, I still I'm not in full capture of all the functionalities of my programs.
And
no
we don't have time.
Yeah, and there's no structured way. And even if I'm able to use a wiki or a kind of shared document part, I'm not sure my colleagues at the same level. And it should be owned at the organization level. And it should not be owned by IT, it should be owned by the process owner.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And Hannah Dagobert mentioned something in regards to HR and culture and developing these relationships. I think it should be 360 approach. It cannot be only HR. It should be the direct manager. It should be IT. It should be HR. It should be also the people within the team having their OKRs involved, involved in the technological development. So them developing skills on a regular basis should be part of the objectives and key results, should be part of how they're measured towards success. But do we actually have the time? Do we have the resources? A lot of the times companies, and I'll show you a couple of examples, are introducing micro learning, which is very interesting. Literally in 2 minutes a day, you work towards a skill. It's also capability academies. So let's say you want to hire a number of customer support agents and you need to hire them very quickly. But traditionally, we're always looking for ready-made material, people who have done this job. But these capability academies are exactly what the future of work is bringing. We hire people, we train them to be customer support agents, and then they become customer support agents, versus the opposite way where we are looking for already experienced people, which is very, very interesting concept. And again, maybe that would be something that you already know, but in regards to all of these skills that I asked you in the beginning to fill: adaptability, collaboration, communication. Again and again, companies are reintroducing new processes so that they focus on understanding whether the people that they hire are experts in these three components, because without them is so challenging. As Hannah mentioned, it's incredibly challenging to do your job. So these are the skills that we mentioned earlier. Do you feel that from a soft skills perspective, do you feel that there is something else that is incredibly critical for the global workforce? We're not talking only about leadership level. Do you feel that there are other skills that are important?
I think I'm talking from the place I work in, but I think self-control and self-regulation is important. This is number one. And I do believe that empathy is important as well. And I think that political awareness is equally important. So those are the three skills that I think that they are important for not only a leader, but for even the workers inside the team. Yeah.
Kamal, that's very interesting that you mentioned the political awareness. What do you mean by that? What does that mean in your organization?
Well, it simply means being able to deal with the corporate politics. I mean, deal with the challenges. So I'm from the IT. I'm working in the IT and from both IT and business backgrounds as an education. So I think it's very important to deal with a good political sense with different departments, because if you deal with business the way you deal with your IT colleagues, it could be a big problem, because business is your customer, so you have to deal in a more delicate level, actually. So, and generally even with different people. So, and in my opinion, the more the organization, the bigger the organization, the more important that everyone should have sort of political, let's say, sense, let's say, awareness, let's say, an ability to deal with anyone and everyone in an efficient way without jeopardizing of course, integrity, and of course the quality of the work as well. Yeah.
Great point, Kamal.
I think it's a matter, if I might add to what Kamal was saying, it could be also what we call the corporate culture intelligence. It's not only a business intelligence, but each organization, I would say, it has its own culture. And of course, the scale as well of the organization is an important aspect or attribute of this intelligence that a person needs to possess. I would say that this is a kind of competency or a skill that should be there somewhere in the skill competency set that we're looking for. It will differ, of course, depending on the level of the employee, whether it's a junior employee or a middle management or a top management. Who is he dealing with? He's a leader, he's a subordinate, whatever. Maybe there's a certain level of this intelligence that we need that may grow as we go up the hierarchy of the organization. But I think this corporate intelligence is very important. The understanding of the culture and the scale of the organization as well is very important, because it really affects big time the way we do business inside.
Yeah, Absolutely. And it's interesting, in Kamal's organization, it's called one thing, in Ingi's situation, completely different. And to be honest with you,
No,
actually,
actually, Kamal
we
and
are,
Ingi are working in the same organization.
yeah,
there you
exactly.
go, there you go, there you go.
But
it's
Ingi is working on the
understandable.
business side. Ingi is
Ah.
working on the business side, and Kamal is on the IT side.
Fair enough, fair enough. But listen, this is very important that you're mentioning it here, because if we go back to if you want go one step back to what you just mentioned in regards to understanding the culture, what is behind that? As Kamal mentioned earlier, it's the self-awareness, it's the empathy, it's understanding context, which is the emotional intelligence. If we go back to the basic human skills, human capabilities, collaboration is exactly that. Collaboration is not only I interact with you, collaboration is I proactively try to understand your world so that you and I work together to achieve a common goal. This is the definition of true collaboration. If you want to translate that to, you know, as Ingi said, to more junior level, to the interns that you're hiring, speak about collaboration. As we go further in the hierarchy, and I will show you here as well.
Just I want to ask a question here.
Yes, of course, Dagobert.
Yeah, it's quite interesting what you are saying, because these are the new skills that a company needs. Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody agrees on that. So, but I just want to ask a question in the group. If you think about how many companies have already fulfilled this kind of mindset, just say a number between 1 and 100%. Everybody, just say a number. I want.
Please vote.
Adina, what
even
are you
on the
saying?
chat.
What are you saying? Huh?
So, what is the question? The line was a little
If you look at this kind of skill set, yeah,
Mhm.
and you look about how many companies do you think have already this kind of skill set? Is it 5%, 10%, 50%, 80%, 100%? How many companies live this
1%.
culture have
I would
already
say
this skill set?
No, I would say it's easier said than done.
Yes.
But I would be very pessimistic or conservative,
Yes.
not pessimistic. I would say it's easier said than done. We know what we want to do. However, on the practical ground, it's not easy to implement. I would vote for less than 10%.
Yeah.
I
I would vote for 5.
So
I would go for
now,
less than 5%. Less than
and now I
5%.
come to,
Yeah.
now I come to the central question: who is able to implement this set of mindset? Yeah, there's one rule. It could be the management, and it could be HR. Yeah. So usually people think this is the main task from an HR department. Yeah. But if you're looking what HR is doing today, yeah, it's the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is about just hiring, keeping the process up to date, and the HR department didn't have the skills, didn't have the time, yeah, to really drive this process and drive programs. If you're talking with every HR leader, I had a big project right now. It's a big challenge that they have time for this, and it's so quickly changing the whole HR world. So usually HR is the best department to bring in this new digital culture, but they don't have the capabilities and they don't have the time. So how can it be possible? That this can be integrated in or can be injected? Yeah, you are HR professional, so
That's out of our
in my
capabilities.
feeling, the whole discussion is, since 2 years is a little bit on the surface, it's not really showing good examples.
Dagobert, I agree, and it seems that also in the chat people are sharing their opinion. It shouldn't be HR. It shouldn't be HR. We're looking at the bigger picture, and we're looking at what companies are already establishing. So to give you an example about particularly the leadership skills, and yes, you're totally right. Only probably 5% of the organizations worldwide have done that, and most likely they are in large businesses. So I'll give a couple of examples about the automotive industry, the financial sector, and the technological world. So Smart Recruiters, a company that has already over 100 people. They basically provide applicant tracking system and solutions to find talent. So they were one of the first that started talking about chief of culture, which is actually not in the HR structure. The chief of culture is reporting directly to the executive board or to the chief of staff. So as Kamal is mentioning, management or Hannah, the owner, this is coming on an executive level. It cannot be HR, because exactly the thing that Dagobert mentioned, HR is firefighting at the moment. Still firefighting. They're much more reactive. They're not as proactive as it can be, because they don't have the capacity, they don't have the capabilities. That's why a lot of the things are outsourced to AI tools. When it comes to these skills, though, these are established from organizations that are thinking 2 steps ahead of the game. I'm giving the example of Smart Recruiters because I think it's something that, if we spoke about chief of culture 3 years ago, who is thinking about the framework for the skills, we will be thinking, isn't that learning and development function, which is under HR? So Dagobert, I completely understand your concern around that. But these are trends. These are trends that we see. It might be wishful thinking, but at least we have some examples and some templates that can help us understand further, okay, what at least is on the map. And as Ingi said, it is incredibly challenging to implement, but there are structures that have already done that. So to give you a couple of things, non-linear working day or ability to choose your own schedule. So we spoke about adaptability, we spoke about flexibility, we spoke about the challenges with remote work, right? GM, General Motors, have already introduced in a lot of their job descriptions the opportunity to design your own working week. So you don't work 9 to 5. It's not a set in stone schedule. If you prefer, you can work from 4 to 6 a.m., do yoga, Pilates, feed your baby, walk with the dog, and then you continue working. And you organize your meetings. You talk to your team, and your manager talks to you about what is needed in an asynchronous way. And General Motors is not a tech company, right? So this is already done in terms of steps to ensure that A, we have the talent, B, this is not HR only driven activities, this is management driven, and C, we are still able to hire people that are talented, that have the right skills for our organization. Another thing, I mentioned earlier the capabilities academies. 2 very traditional companies, Novartis and MasterCard, they have already introduced programs where they work with universities on their skill development. And the leadership skills that I've mentioned, and Vlas will share with you the presentation, so you have obviously the information, they are doing that. They have actually said we need cultural awareness. We need to work on understanding how to work with cultures that are different to ours. And that's happening not only on management level, that's happening on individual contributor level, right? So this is already happening. Micro-learning and assigning learning paths as part of the OKRs. Again, not driven by HR, driven by the management. The senior management is saying we need that, HR executes. LinkedIn and Adecco Group. I'm curious, and I know we are leaning towards the end of our discussion, but have you seen anything like that? Or have you, because we're talking about companies that are introducing some successful activities in regards to skills or in regards to managing remote and hybrid. Have you seen anything that works well?
Coursera. Coursera had a few courses that are very useful, and it was helpful to get the people engaged. There were short terms of information, and it was very much based on the person's need. So you have multiple topics and you will select from them and you finish them in a flexible time frame. I would say they are very successful.
Okay, interesting. So again, we go back to that flexibility and adaptability element all the time, that people need to select how they prefer to work. But again, those companies that have always been remote, they are incredibly selective as well. Not everyone is able to work fully remotely. Not everyone is. Hybrid is probably something that all of us can adjust to because it has components of everything. But can we truly implement that? Dagobert's concern is pretty valid. Some organizations cannot work well fully in that setup. So what can they do? Anything else? I'm very curious if you have seen anything that has worked well or hasn't worked well, because this is an opportunity for us to discuss it.
No, I mean, it's mostly not coming from the companies rather than from educational companies. So they offer a lot of services and a lot of trainings. So for example, in Germany, you have a huge media group, and the huge media group is setting up a specific program for 10 of the biggest companies, and they're bringing in speakers and people from everywhere. And every company can send some employees there. So, but it's still an experimental phase. So where it's done by a huge media company, and and they are on a mission to make digitalization understandable for everybody. So. I'm wondering.
So these are like open education courses, is it, Dagobert? So open education.
No, it's not an open education course. So it's mostly a collaboration between a big media house and 10 of the biggest companies in Germany, like BMW and so on. And they're trying to start an experiment with everybody can send in 10 employees, and the 10 employees get a course of 1 year. And it's everything about digitalization. So it's just a kind of experiment, which could be financed by any company by themselves, because it's too much work to do that.
True. Exactly, especially as you said, if it's 1 year. This is why micro-learning is winning currently the market, because micro-learning is as short as 2 minutes a day. Again, timing is very difficult. Commitment, imagine if you sign up for a course for 1 year, this is a massive commitment, eating from your time, whether it's family time, whether it's time at work. Learning paths and micro-learning could be a lot easier and a lot cheaper in the companies, because you can, let's say, follow the track to, as you mentioned, Dagobert, digitalization, but you do small chunks in your own time that leads towards a certification or achieving something, let's say, getting access to a new project at work. So there could be a lot of other reward systems that wouldn't take so much of your time. Hope that makes sense.
I mean, the whole learning environment is also completely changing. So
absolutely.
I'm completely agree that it's something like a micro learning. You can also have your, I don't know, your short MBA, where you have a 10 minutes MBA courses in the internet, and you pay €1,000 or something like that. So you didn't need the big Harvard universities to get knowledge and so on.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Yeah. Hannah, you wanted to mention something. I saw that you unmuted yourself. No?
Yes, for the soft skills development, I don't think it should be taken as an individual basis. As we mentioned that the soft skills, we all had the exposure with the digital skills, upskilling for your own. But then if we come into consensus to a consolidated framework that is related and customized to our organization, to our culture, and based on that, we can extend or share that knowledge. So everybody is having an input. So if we are a team, I can get the insight from the HR, how about the flexibility of the timing, and I can get the insight of the training skills from the IT, as well as the software that's helping me, and then how this would enhance and give me more deliverables in my work process. And designing that will be customized based on our own processes. We don't have to go to something preset and something outside.
Yes.
Sometimes we just have to pile it up and to look what worked well for us.
Absolutely. And that's experimenting. As Dagobert mentioned, Hannah, completely agree with you as well. It needs to be experimented within the organization. Do not buy a ready-made tool only to trial and see how it works. The whole idea is, if you want people to embrace your mission, your culture, it has to come from you. Yes, you can use different platforms. And here what I wanted to show you when it comes to leveraging technology, there various examples of organizations that are already providing incredibly interesting and innovative tools. So not something that has been done frequently or already by other big giants. But the whole idea is, you can use the framework, you can use the platform, but you need to customize it depending on your organization. And I would go even a level deeper than what Hannah mentioned. Different teams, different cultures. If you have a product team in Colombia versus a product team in Taiwan, trust me, the perception would be completely different. Some of them would be, okay, so let's say in Colombia, they'll be completely fine to go to HR, figure out, okay, what can be aligned to our goals for the team, versus in, let's say, Taiwan, where the culture is, we follow guidelines. And that's it, right? So one organization might have variety of pockets that need to be aligned overall from a mission and culture perspective. But when it comes to the different tools, the different mechanisms of how the team gel with one another, there might be different opportunities for that to experiment. So here I just wanted to show you some examples of these are small companies. These are more startups that are really raising the bar when it comes to hiring people. So Swick, for example, candidates interview candidates. Let me know if you've heard of anything like that before. This is incredibly different approach to hiring. Let's say Paradox. Paradox have a tool called Olivia that basically solves your scheduling, your organization of interviews as if the candidates are talking to a real human. So that's completely outsourced already. I'm not even talking about virtual reality, augmented reality. I'm not talking about this because this will be the next step of the development. But from all of these different skills that we discussed earlier, for all of these goals, when it comes to efficiency, when it comes to people avoiding burnout, these are tools that can help. Kamal was talking a lot about the empathy, the self-awareness piece as well, the ability to speak the language of the business and the technology. So Kona is doing something like that. They're trying to understand how people can be more empathetic in regards to different challenging situations, so that there isn't such thing as, oh, Bulgarians, I'm using that term because I'm Bulgarian, Bulgarians are very critical versus, let's say, someone from the Nordics or someone from another country. So there are lots of interesting tools out there that can be trialed, just so that you can see if you can implement them, but customize the practices so that they fit your own needs. As I mentioned, of course,
I want to give a recommendation to read, because you mentioned virtual reality. And one of the best books I ever read is a book, AI 2041. So
2041, I'll write that down.
Intelligence, so AI 2041. So this is a book written by Kai-Fu Lee. This is the most famous scientist, and also written by a science fiction author. Yeah. So, and in this book you have 10 different chapters, and one chapter is about the future of work. So you get a lot of facts from Kai-Fu Lee, and then you get a great science fiction story how virtual reality future work is looking in the future. And I really can recommend that to read it. I don't want to tell too much about that, but it's about really how it changed the way how you're working. So what it's doing with people. If you having a virtual avatar and you're really working virtual together. It's fantastic book. So it's it's a science fiction based on facts. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I actually wrote it down. So thank you so much for the recommendation. From my perspective, couple of recommendations for those of you who like data. The Talent Trends from Mercer is incredible research. So you can definitely get some insights there. If you want to experiment when it comes to empathy, there is a free tool by a company called Atlassian. It's a very interesting activity, so you can practice it with your own teams. And then if you are interested in everything that I've put here in the slides have been checked by Josh Bersin, who is one of the gurus in the HR industry. All of these suggestions, all of these stats are basically gotten from him and from other sources. Huntley, when it comes to recruitment, and Jacob Morrison as well, two other experts within the HR area in particular, because that's my domain. But I really hope that this spurred interest, and I love the discussions. Dagobert, you're not the devil's advocate. You are just knowledgeable, and you are curious, and you want to put the discussion onward, because I think this is incredibly important to have discussion from both sides. Okay, what is working and what's not working? So I hope this was beneficial for you. You learned something, or at least you discovered things that you might want to trial again. Are there any questions or anything you want to share? Because I know you're running on a very tight schedule, and Vlas is going to control
cracking
me soon.
the whip. I'm cracking the whip.
Questions, comments, anything? Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to continue the dialogue. It's always great idea. I'm currently on maternity leave, but I will always respond.
Awesome, Radina. Thank you so much. Really.
Thank you very much. It was very beneficial that we discussed this together. I personally found it enlightening, because what we are discussing is something that we face now on a daily basis, either with our own selves or with our teams or with our management. So it's always good to discuss and put things in focus. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Ingi, absolutely, for your contribution as well. It was a pleasure, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the sessions. Have a great evening and stay safe.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.